Welcome to the No Stand Zone podcast with me, Tiae. As always, it's a pleasure to have you join me. This podcast comes live to you every single Monday. And there's a lot to get to today. I mean, I'm not even going to waste your time. There's a lot to get to today. But before we dive into that real quick, let me just say thank you for tuning into this podcast every single week. I took some time to look at the back end of things this past week and look at where you're listening to the podcast from. And let me just give a big shout out to you wherever you're listening from around the world. I mean, I'm talking about Australia, I'm talking about the UK, Belgium. I see you, I hear you. Okay, so Indonesia, oh my goodness, I saw that as well. I was like, whoa, wait. In Togo, in Ghana, thank you very much for pressing play wherever you're listening to me from. And if I missed your country, my bad. Just, hit me up on Twitter and let me know where you're listening to me from, or just send me an email, right? nostandpod@gmail.com, or hit me up on Twitter is at Tiae Sound, Tiae Sound Sound, Tiae Sound on Twitter. Let me know where you're listening to the pod from, and so we can connect. I mean, if we're both listening to this podcast, as I'm speaking, I'm listening to it, and you press and play on the other end. If there's already that connection that exists, we can as well say what's up and hi and actually meet each other, virtually, right? So thank you very much for pressing play on the pod this week. Like I said, so much, my goodness, so much to get to today, and I have to fix everything in this hour. I had an incredible week. Let me even start from there. I had an incredible week, and I hope your week was great as well. And I had a headache this week trying to process all the things that happened this week. So much happened. And let's dive into one of the very first thing I want to talk about. Let's dive into it. I was part of a space this week. Shout out to the folks at the Afro Critic. You guys can follow them. I'm a big fan of what they do. Follow them on Twitter as well. It's at Afrocritic on Twitter, or afrocritic.com. They post like news around the music in Nigeria, around literacy as well, like authors and stuff like that. They post stuff about that as well, about movies, and like it's just a rich, shall I say, a rich storage of things happening in Nigeria, not just the music. Okay, so you guys should go check them out. I'm part of the community as well, so we do back and forth. I was part of their Twitter space this week, and the question was about foreign charts and whether foreign charts should be some sort of metric to quantify Afrobeat artists today. Right. And I was invited to be part of that this week, and I had to make time. I'm usually not part of those spaces, but I had to make time for that this week. And it was really, really interesting actually listening. And it's just ridiculous. And I just sat back listening to all of that. And I'm just so glad this podcast exists, because it's like it just showed me more reason why we should have a space so we can have like really constructive conversations around music and the things that are happening in Afrobeats. And if you've been listening to this podcast long enough, you know that I've spoken about foreign charts here and how relevant I think they are, or they should be, in our society today, right? And it was just really interesting to be part of that conversation, as well as hear what others had to say about it. So I think what actually started this was a Twitter handle, right, posted that both Rema and I think Fireboy's album both didn't make the Billboard 200. That already blows my mind already, that is news, but I understand why that was. And there was a criticism of this Twitter page saying it shouldn't have even been posted at all, because they usually don't post people that don't, the artists that don't make it to the top 200 that's in America. You have to know that the Billboard is an American company, and it's an American chart metric, right? They track albums that trend in the US, right? So what they were saying was none of these albums made the top 200 this past week or when they released their albums. For me, that just sounds wild, right? That is still the kind of conversation that is happening out there. But I mean, I just felt so glad that finally someone else or some other people are seeing that it is a problem, that this even matters to us, and it's a metric that we use. And part of my contribution to that conversation was that I was just laughing throughout the whole week, right? It was just a mixture of bittersweet for me, where I was laughing and be like, I'm just chilling and just seeing people battle with all of that information. And I'm like, well, I have been talking about this for years now. Literally, I have been speaking about this for years. And it is interesting that we have, the rest of the industry is catching up to how ridiculous it is that that foreign charts are used as a metric of success for a Nigerian album. Like, how Americans vibe to your music is what determines the success of a Nigerian album. Like, that is just crazy to me. And I saw this a long time ago. I have spoken about it months ago on this pod, and I've spoken about it on Twitter Spaces before now. And folks were just telling me to calm down. Like, I remember when the Grammys announced sometime last year that there was going to be like an African category or Afrobeats category, and I mentioned it then. I remember mentioning it then. Maybe I don't think I've mentioned. Maybe I probably mentioned it in the first episode here, which is one of the first things I talked about on this pod. Funny enough, that eventually this foreign metrics are gonna become obsolete. They don't serve us. And those awards, those categories are going to be a reflection of what Americans think of our music rather than what we think about our music. And that is never going to make sense in any way. It's just going to keep on diluting our sound because we don't get to determine what's hot and what is not. And as you would expect, Stans came out to say, oh, it shouldn't the blog or the Twitter handle shouldn't have posted it, because it makes some artists look bad. And for me, I honestly don't care where you chart on these platforms. And well, it's just interesting that folks have finally gotten to that point. And I remember mentioning on that Twitter space this past Thursday as well, that very soon, the next question we should be asking is, should foreign awards as well be a metric for success? Nobody's asking that question yet, but that should be the next thing. We're going to eventually get there because so many of the people on the internet, their favorite artists are not being nominated at these awards. We're going to talk about Tyla real soon. You guys should hold on for that. Stay tuned for that. We're going to talk about Tyla winning the VMAs and all of that, and all the story behind some of my thoughts, right? And I'm like, that should be the next thing we're talking about. And the thing is, because I just know Nigerians, like, the moment even if it's stimulating us, we quickly move away from it. I remember there was a time Channel O used to be a thing, awards if you win, or BET used to be a thing. People don't even care about it anymore. Then it used to be the Grammys, and we're where we are today. Most people are tonguing it, raising their nose up at the Grammys today. And rightfully so. So, it was just really interesting. Amongst other things, it was just really, really interesting to see that the rest of the industry is kind of catching up on what I have been talking about for months and even years now. And I mentioned it on that space that hopefully you guys catch up real soon on the awards as well, where people want, there's no vision, especially for the award shows. I remember, I mentioned in that Twitter space what I mentioned about 2 years ago, where I said we need to have we need to have an award show of ours really soon. Something credible. It doesn't have to be the biggest. It just has to be credible. It has to be run by serious people who have a vision. There are tons of companies in Africa, tons of companies. I am very sure, and these companies are serious, that they're run by serious people. So if you're coming with an award show and you want to have some sort of sponsor, you have to be serious as well. It has to be, you have to show vision. You have to show commitment. You need to show that this can actually work. But it doesn't have to be the biggest thing. I shared with them on that Twitter space about the beginning of the Grammys that we see today. The Grammys is over 60 years old, right? It's been on for over 60 years now, right? And I said, has anybody ever found out what the first year of the Grammys were like? What was the goal? What was the mission when they originally started? Because that was what I did at the time. I was like, we need to find something. And the most the biggest award show today is the Grammys. And I went ahead to find out what it was like. In the beginning, it was just about making sure people get recognized for their work. Basically, that was it. It was like, okay, this is the popular way everyone was getting recognized, by getting the stars, what was that Walk of Fame, whatever that is in Los Angeles. And they were like, well, not everybody is getting the recognition, right, on the Hollywood Walk of Fame or something. Let's create another one. And as you know it, 1959, they come up with an award show to recognize the artists that have done their work in 1958. In fact, they had the very first award show of the Grammys was happening, two at the same time. The two awards were happening at the same time. You can imagine how ridiculous that is. It was happening in New York and Los Angeles at the same time. Two award shows, but one, under one umbrella. And look at what it is today. In fact, it wasn't called the Grammys at that time. Right? The whole name behind the Grammys is the gramophone. Eventually became, recognizing the person, the one who founded the gramophone, right? Eventually became the Grammys. It didn't even become televised up until almost 20 years later in the 70s. So you see here that they were not thinking about how do we make it big, from the beginning. It was just, let's get something done. The people were not getting recognized. Let's get them recognized. Let's go ahead and do it. That was the goal. In fact, when the Grammys started, hip hop as a genre didn't even exist at the time. Right? It didn't even exist. So the founders themselves could not have imagined that they would be giving out award show Grammys to rappers. I know that at that time, even in America, there was discrimination against black people at the time. So it wasn't even an award for black, but it evolved into what it is today. What am I trying to say? We start small, but start with a vision. Start small, but start with some sort of commitment and what you want to achieve with this award show. I remember talking about this with the co-founder of Turntable Charts. They came out with an award show. I think they've done it. I think last year was the first time they did, or this year was the first time they did it, or something like that. And I was so mad. Adeayo was here. You guys can go check out that episode. I think it's episode 2 or 3, where I had a conversation with him, and I told him, you guys can do better than this. But it doesn't look like you guys have a vision. You guys have a goal of where you want to get to. It is not about the artists today. It is just about recognizing art. It is not about whether one big artist shows up or whether Rema or Burna Boy shows up for the award show. That it should not be your goal. Your goal should be recognizing art and doing it with integrity, and have a 10-year goal. The thing is, 10 years from now, the kid who is 10 years old today is going to be 20 at that time. I mean, King Madi is just 18. She's not even 20 yet. So imagine a kid who's 10 years old and all he has grown up to see is a credible award show in Nigeria. If he blows up at the age of 18, guess the award show he trusts enough. Because you've built credibility with the people. That is what you should be like thinking about. But we're here complaining that big artists will not show up. Damn them. It doesn't have to be big. Just start. Do something about it. And some of you might be wondering, well, it's not something that can be done alone. I have mentioned this to those at the turntable chart. Like, I'm open to it. Let's sit down and come up with something. I mentioned it at the space as well, that the industry itself cannot survive without like just having people who are in the industry that are credible enough. And I said, yeah, I'm there because I've put in the work over the years. I'm not even gonna minimize the work that I've put into the industry. And I mentioned that to the space that I'm usually very trying to be like humble and all that. But this time I was like, no, screw that. I'm gonna tell you, I have done a lot of work. I've had conversations. I have told people, let's work together. Let's find a way to make this industry better. Let's find a way to make this award show work. And some of you might be thinking, oh, what is the essence of award shows? I mean, other industries understand that. There's in the same America, there's the BET, there's the Grammys, there's the VMAs, there's the iHeart. There's so many award shows, all recognizing just the music. We haven't it was spoken about in the movies and the award shows that exist to recognize the actors and the movies producers and all of that. Art is supposed to be appreciated. It's supposed to be celebrated. It can't just exist in a vacuum. And even as a business, it pays because you can discover new artists that way. Every year, you have to do best new artist, right? Meaning every year, you have to put your eyes out there for new acts. And if artists out there know that there is some sort of discovery that goes on every year, you know what? Everyone is working hard because there's a reward system in place. So people are working hard. I'm like, okay, I want to get recognized for this. And the thing is, once you've been nominated for such an award, you can be nominated again because now you're no longer a new act every year. So imagine every year we're discovering new artists. We're letting them know that we're out there looking for you. Not even on the label side, just to recognize and celebrate you. That does a lot. That does a lot to the industry. That does a lot to the ecosystem. So, I mean, I hope we also get to a point where we are having conversations about award shows being some sort of metric to say which artist is great or not great, or which artist is the best or not best. Like last year is a perfect example, right? Tyla got the award, the Grammys, for Song of the Year, which is ridiculous because it was obvious. Anyone who just is in the African or in the Nigerian ecosystem knows that Unavailable by Davido was hands down the biggest song, literally the song of the summer, the song of the year. He released this album early in the year, and even at the end of the year, you could still perform this Unavailable, and he will still show up performing, and the crowd still goes wild. And as big as Water by Tyla was, it was nowhere close to the achievement by Davido's Unavailable. But he didn't get the award, to my point. So it's been an incredible week, just thinking about it up until the time the space happened, and then just sharing my thoughts, and then also hearing what people had to say. It's just ridiculous how some people are just so hung up on their favorite artists, and they cannot even think of anything outside that. They can't even see or fathom that they might be wrong, or everything is not centered around their favorite artist. But that's why this podcast exists, is the No Stand Zone. we give, how would I put it, objective thoughts here. It's not mirrored after any other person's thoughts, and I can assure you that the conversations we're having here is way ahead of its time, of this industry, because it's been proven over and over again. And you should recommend it. You should recommend this podcast to your friends, and family and loved ones, and people who you know are interested in, or are involved in the music industry, especially want to know more about Afrobeats and just the Nigerian music industry, the African music industry. This is where the conversations are happening way beyond the rest of the world catches on. You would sound smart actually taking the information from here and giving it out there. People are gonna look at you in a way, but you know what? They're gonna be like, where'd you get that? Where are you getting this information from? Right? We can share thoughts here as well. Okay, so I don't even look down on anyone. If you hear a thing or two that sounds interesting to you, share with your friends. Let them know that Tiae, you got that information from the No Stanzo podcast. All right, real quick. So let's dive into the next thing, from just rolling in from like what we're already talking about award shows and there being a metric, right? So another big story this past week was Tyla winning the MTV Video Music Awards for Best Afrobeat Song, and there was a whole lot about her, even just throughout the whole event, from her not dancing. I think I saw a clip where I think Megan Thee Stallion was performing. She was dancing, and then the camera went to her, and then she just stopped. And the rumor, take that with a pinch of salt, is that she stopped dancing because she's probably looking for a Nicki Minaj feature in the future, and she doesn't want to be seen dancing to Megan Thee Stallion. That was one. Number two, eventually when she was given the award was announced, and it was like, oh, Tyla won it. She got she was given the award itself, and she was trying to give it to the presenter, the person who mentioned her name. She was trying to give it to the lady to hold it for her. I mean, I don't even know what to say about that, but it was very cringe worthy just watching that happen. And it looked, if I were to say even anything about that, it just looked very kind of rude, I would say, where they're your peers, right? They're not there to worship you or to work for you, right? So you've been given the award. Hold the damn award and say what you have to say. Not look at them and be like, oh, this award is too heavy. You cannot carry that. But that's irrelevant. But what made the biggest news was her acceptance speech, where part of it, she said, there's more to African music than Afro beats. And then she went on to say she's South African, that there's also Amapiano and all of that. And there's been, there was a whole lot of commentary around that, a whole lot of commentary around her acceptance speech. And I don't even know how to feel about it, because I didn't even care. I don't think I even listened to the speech. It was when I saw that it was going viral and folks were talking about it, and I was like, is it that important though? Right? Is it that important? But then I heard someone say something, is that people don't like her already because of the whole, especially in the US, she is not liked a lot because of the whole thing that happened when she mentioned at Breakfast Club. We'll also talk about that later on. At the Breakfast Club interview, that she was colored, and that word colored has a different meaning in America, right? So it rubbed a lot of people wrong in a certain way. And in South Africa, light-skinned people like her are called colored because she's mixed, right? And color just has a whole nother negative, deep-rooted meaning in America. So a lot of people just hated her sort of for that. The internet went wild at the time. And so that's kind of like what I see, that people are just looking for a reason to be mad at her. Like her even winning the award itself didn't even bother me, because personally for me, all of that is just business. All those awards there, it's the moment she won the Grammys, I know it's just going to be other dominoes are just going to fall. And yeah, it's just going to be, she's winning for the song Water, right? And because it was, I would say, probably the biggest Afrobeat song in the US. So everyone will just give that award to her. And like I said earlier, these awards are not a reflection of what Africans think about African music. It's basically what Americans think about African music. Basically, that's what it is. If people see it that way, I think you won't even get mad at her. You won't even get mad at her for any reason. Honestly, I don't even know what to say. I don't even know why people were uproar about what she had to say. It meant almost nothing to me, right? And what now makes this very funny in a way is I saw some of the backlash towards her was also like, oh, she's a plant, and that, probably her music is not all that, and for me, I was listening to what was being said way beyond just the surface level. Now, I can understand that some Africans will be on the same page with some foreigners as to say, oh, she's a plant and she probably, she just came from nowhere and is winning all these awards. But what I want people to understand is this. I want most people to most Africans, especially those who know a lot and are listening to, invested in just African music. I want most people to just slow down, because I want you to understand that these feelings by foreigners is not totally towards Tyla alone. It is generally a pushback to Afrobeats. Because a lot of people, especially in America, feel like Afrobeats is taking something that is not necessarily there, is not necessarily, or shouldn't, it's taking a position they shouldn't be in. Our Afrobeat artists, from folks like Rema and Burna as well, it's not all, oh, they're excited for us. So for the people who are, locking hands to shit on Tyla, I want them to understand that it's not just this feeling is the way they feel about most of our Afrobeat artists. I believe so. Now, most people might not agree with that, but I honestly believe that. We have to be careful. Honestly, we have to be careful. I don't think it's all love and hugs and teddy bears towards our African artists or Afrobeats as a genre. Not everybody's excited for us, and I think that Tyla is just being used as some sort of punching bag because they can't get to everybody else. So there's so much vitriol towards Tyla's way because she's the one that is sort of up front. I can bet that the feelings they have towards Tyla, they have towards most of these African artists, most of these Afrobeat artists, from Rema to Tems as well. If you people think there is love for you in this market, it's just business. If Afrobeat doesn't become the thing tomorrow, nobody will care about Tems. And as big as some of these artists think they are in these markets, it's just business. It's just business. And that takes me to the next thing I want to talk about. With the folk, like Rema was on the Breakfast Club this week, as well as Tems, and I think it's been in this same week as well, because I didn't see it last week. I think they were both there this week. And the question that just popped in my mind is, what is the return on investment on our artists still showing up at these media platforms at this point? If every question is still centered around, Afrobeats. That, you see, that's what I'm talking about. Every artist that has blown, from Davido, Burna, Rema, Tems, herself, Tyla, everybody has been mentioning this, has been educating folks about Afrobeats. But the thing is, every time any Nigerian artist sits down with any media, any American media, guess what they're still talking about? They're still talking about, Afrobeats is this. Nobody is asking these artists really deep questions. And these questions are not even deep enough, Seth. Because they don't even, I think they just write out these questions for them. Honestly, is there still a return on investment on going to these foreign platforms? Because left to me, what I think is this. This is what I think. And I mean, if you like, take it with a pinch of salt. But I deeply believe this. The people showing up to the shows, to Nigerian artists, to all these people's shows, most of the people showing up and paying at these shows are mostly Nigerians and Africans. The people paying are not outside of this demographic. And I want to believe that most of the Africans who are listening and want to know more or want to follow up with the artists are not listening to the Breakfast Club to know the latest with Rema, or to know the latest with Tems, or to know the latest with Burna or Wiz. You can just follow, like, go on Twitter, and you know what's happening. You follow a few pages, you know what's happening. So to me, I'm asking myself, is there still a return on investment showing up to these places if nothing new is being asked? I think there was a question, I saw a post where Rema was being asked, what is the reason or something like that, or the idea behind his music, and I'm like, I am 100% sure that whoever is the host asking the question doesn't like the music and probably just listen to the first 30 seconds, or they've planned that, okay, that's kind of his hottest song right now, let's ask him questions about it. These people don't care about our music. They don't. And they are not the ones paying and buying. They're not. It's the Africans in diaspora who invest in their music, and these people are not listening to the Breakfast Club to know the latest on any of our artists. You follow them on Instagram, you know a lot more than you would ever get from their interviews with Breakfast Club. So I'm here and I'm saying, if majority of the people paying for the music, buying the music, coming for the shows are not in the demographic that actually listen to the Breakfast Club, I would guarantee, I can beat my chest, that they make up probably about 1% of the people investing in these people's music. Why go to these platforms in the first place? Because anytime I listen to these interviews, it just sounds very redundant to me. I'm like, do I still have to tell you how to pronounce Ashake? Do I still need to tell you that Afrobeat is not all of Nigerian music or all of African music? Do I need to tell you that not all Nigerian? Like, how many years and months I'm still having to explain that to you now? Can I just come to your radio show and we talk about life? We talk about music. We talk about fashion. And it doesn't have to do with you saying the word Afrobeats. Is it possible? At this point, we should be able to have those conversations. But that tells you that they don't give a damn about your music and whatever it is you're doing, or you've been doing, or you've achieved since the last time you came there. It's the same questions. I just rinse and repeat. Just ask the same questions. I mean, SDC, shout out to them. Their new album incredible No Love in Lagos. They were with one of the media personnel in the US, and they were still, as a rapper, they were still being asked the Afrobeats question. They were still being asked the Afrobeats question. It's like any Nigerian artist that shows up in any American media, they just have to explain the Afrobeats thing. I'm like, how many of our artists have had to explain that over the years? Why are we still on that till now? Left to me, there is no return there's no return on investment for any of our artists still showing up, especially to American media platforms today. There is no return on investment. Nothing new is being asked, and I think it's lack of respect for this artist, because they're doing what most artists in the world are not able to achieve. And like I mentioned a while ago on the Twitter space, I said more people should understand that folks like Rema and David and Wiz and Burner selling arenas are in the 1%. I would say even less than 1% of the artists around the world today. Not every artist. Very few are even able to go on tour, talk less of sell out stadiums or sell out 20,000, 10,000, even 5,000. Very few artists are able to do that year in, year out, that you can be sure you get a venue, you can sell it out. Not everybody can do that today. I know it will be some sort of strategy for the teams to be like, oh, invest in America. But the thing is, you're at a point, I think the illusion at first was that, the people that will pay for this music will be majority like non-Africans who are in America. But it's clear at this point, the people, 90%, I would say 95% of the people supporting the Afrobeats artists anywhere in the world are by Africans. So why still? Well, I think another reason for that could be because they're signed to foreign labels or they have connections with foreign labels, so they have to kind of put them in these markets. Yeah, I mean, I don't see a return on investment of still going to those places. It's just, it's just what is kind of like at the back of my mind. There is no reason there. And because these spaces don't even have Africans or Nigerians who understand the music, who can ask them questions that exist outside of that, of the Afrobeats talking point that I don't know where they're bringing those questions or things from. They don't have any Africans there in those rooms to just ask something different. Wouldn't it be nice? And the truth is, I'm not even going to hide. I would love to be in those spaces. Like, it helps. It does help. And it's not from a place of like lack of trying. I don't know if I've shared with you guys on this space before. I went to several radio stations. I still hit them up. Even as at this year. I went to several radio stations in 2019, before the Love One Teen blew up and it became a thing, telling them that there is this genre of music, Afrobeats, you guys need to be paying attention to. Have me in this space to be able to talk about this music, and our audience doesn't listen to all of that. Well, apparently your audience listens to it now. Even at that, they still don't see it. Even at the biggest platforms, they don't take the initiative to have someone who understands the music there, because they don't respect you, especially on the breakfast club. For example, whenever they have politicians around, you know what they do? They bring an extra host so that the old host who knows a lot more about politics can ask the question. The host doesn't show up every day. That extra host doesn't, like a guest host, doesn't show up every day. They bring a guest host who understands politics to ask the politician questions. And that's because they actually care what the response and what the question is. But then they care less about you guys because they don't do that for you. Just, even if it's one time, have an African who understands the African music to be in the room to ask the questions to even give context to some of the questions you ask so you don't sound like repetitive and redundant and just ignorant. Tems had to tell them that Asake is naturally pronounced Asake, not Asake. Why should you still be calling him Asake at this point? If you Google it, just Google pronunciation of that, it will tell you that his name is pronounced Asake. Just listen to the music. If they even play the first 30 seconds, they will hear Ololademi Asake is right there. But they don't give a damn about you guys. Why are you still showing up to these platforms either way? I think my point is, the people you guys are trying to placate to, from the music to interviews and all of that, those people don't give a damn about your music, about you and what you're doing. Their audience are not the majority of who is making you money. So why still show up there? Come up with new ways. Show up to African platforms. Or demand, because some of you have even the leverage, demand that they ask reasonable questions, or they have someone who understands the music in the room. Man, it's just, yeah. I hope you guys were not, I mean, I know vex the way, my voice just go up today on top of this matter. Like, yeah, I'm almost kind of losing it with this, with these people. But I mean, that's why we here. That's why this space exists, to amplify some of these issues and these conversations, right? So please, again, follow on Twitter is at No Stand Zone. On YouTube is the No Stand Zone podcast. Also on Twitter is No Stand Pod, at No Stand Pod. Please share with your friends, okay? Share with your friends. And even those who don't know a lot about Afrobeat, share this podcast with them so they can kind of keep up with what is happening. And so that when they get outside, they don't call Asake Asake. All right, they know what is actually happening in the music industry, and they don't think everybody is doing, Afrobeats music. And talking about folks not doing Afrobeats music, let me give a big shout out to this artist from Nigeria. By the way, her name is KOLD AF. She came up with a new EP called KAUTION. Now, she is someone I haven't been paying attention to, by the way. And I have been listening to her. She's come up with a couple of singles in the past, in a few months or a year or so. But I haven't done a deep dive into her music because it just didn't catch my attention enough. But the music, I know the music is good, but I'm like, you haven't gotten me, enough for me to, take my time to actually dive into your music, get to know more, right? And I was just like, okay, I will wait until she kind of has the project out to hear what the sound is, and then that will determine a lot, right? So when I heard that she was coming out with a project, I was like, well, this is gonna be interesting. So I listened to it this past week, an EP, 6 songs, less than 20 minutes, 17 minutes, and some change. And I have to say, what I will say is, I hear you. KOLD AF, I hear you loud and clear. And I'm looking at here, she's licensed to Warner Music as well. You see, I didn't even know this. I heard the production and I was like, this sounds expensive. And incredible production, by the way. It sounded crisp, sounded clear, sounded like money, sounded like new keto, sounded like new shoes. It smelled like new shoes, sort of, while listening to this project. I would say I hear you loud and clear, KOLD AF. I hear what you're trying to do. I see you trying to separate yourself from the field. And this is not, I wouldn't consider her an Afrobeat artist, by the way. I would say she's a pop artist, right? But I wouldn't say Afrobeat. She actually, I think they try to make it really clear what her vibe and her sound is. She gives me that sort of reggae, the kind of Shensia kind of vibe where, you know, I'm giving you the hurt girl thinking. I can hear from her voice, like there's a lot of, she's very assertive in the music. Like, this is who I am unapologetically. Like, I could hear that. And I actually appreciated that as well. She sounded like, I'm not new. I know what I'm doing. This is who I am. Take it or leave it. I could hear all of that in the music. By the way, this is an incredible EP. I really liked it. I mean, this song 365 is a incredible way to start an EP. A very strong way to start an EP. Like I said, she was very assertive, and it sounded very intentional. I mean, in really, really interesting way. I really like this song 365. I really, really do like it. This EP is someone actually putting in the work. It didn't sound like every other beat out there. It didn't sound like, oh, they just went to a producer and said, give us a beat, or, just give us a beat more, just put anything on top. This sounded like they actually put in the work together to come up with this. You guys, 365, this is my favorite song in this EP. Another one I really like is Circle Must Break featuring Uncommon Prophets, the very last song on the EP. I really liked it as well. Another one I liked is 10 Toes Down, or is it? I think it's the 10 Toes Down and My Way. I really did. This was a project well put together. For someone who was wondering, hey, who is KOLD AF, and you're not sure what her sound is, who she is, this is a very assertive project saying, this is who I am. Like, it's a very strong statement. And I hear you loud and clear, KOLD AF. This was an incredible project. I'm really, really proud of you. And what I'm hoping for her, is this, because I'm speaking like she's here with me. And what I'm hoping for her is she actually continues in this sound. It might be something really hard to do, which I've seen that a lot of artists do that, where you come up with a particular style, and later on you kind of deviate towards more like Afrobeat sound, right? But for her, I'm hoping that she keeps going in this lane, because nobody in this industry is doing what she's doing. It's coming up with this style, this particular style. The only person doing that is on the male side with Ruga, with this, like the reggae as well. Did I say reggae, or it's just skipping my mind right now. But she gives me the vibes that Shensia also gives to me right now. And this was a beautiful project. I really like it. KOLD AF, I think I need to say this. I hear you, because I think she was trying, like the vision is, this is who I am. Right? Someone is like, you walk into a place and they're like, oh, who are you? We don't know who you are. Maybe your name is not on the list. Who are you? Let's get through to the manager. Maybe we'll get back to you, but stay on the side, that kind of thing. And then she walks in and says, hey, this is me. I'm KOLD AF. This is who I am. Check me out. Look at my style. Look at my voice. Like, you can look, it's like the music sort of embodies her, is what I, when I hear the whole project kind of embodies her, is what I'm saying. It's how I think of it is like someone talking to me and be like, this is who I am. You can't help but actually, pay attention to her. Basically is what she's saying. And in a time today where, there's so many projects out there, I think for me so far this year, this project for sure stands out of every, it's not like I'm not saying it's the best, but it definitely stands out. There's no way I'm forgetting this project, because out of everything I'm hearing, this is new, right? This is different. Like, there's been a lot of, like, there's been rap projects released, there've been R&B projects, there's been like pop projects, Afrobeats and all of that, but there hasn't been this year. I haven't heard this particular style and with this sound that she's working with, and just the energy. I haven't gotten this from any, especially female artists this year. I would commend her for this work. So once again, KOLD AF, I hear you loud and clear. Your your goal. Yeah, you accomplished your goal. I hear you. I see you now. Okay, because I know that's what you're trying to say. You're trying to say, here I am, right? I'm good. I can do this thing. So I recognize you. I see you. Okay. Morie. Cabo. All right. Cabo, welcome to the scene is what I would say, because I haven't been sure about her for a while. So this is once again a good way to assert yourself into the conversation of, if you're talking about the female artists in the industry, yes, KOLD AF for sure is in that conversation, should be for sure in that conversation as well. What other music did I hear this week that I want to point out? Did I hear any other thing this week? Give me a second. Let me see. I don't think from the new music I heard anything else this week that kind of like caught my attention. Let me see. I think Niniola released a new project, right? Did she? Oh, I haven't listened to this one. Oh my goodness, that's true. I haven't listened to this Niniola's new project. I will come back next week with my thoughts on this. Okay, so you guys stay tuned. But I've added it to the library. I don't know how I missed it, but I remember that I was missing something. But Niniola has a new project out. It's titled Press Play. And I think she's been building up to this for a while. Because she had released a couple of songs, All Eyes on Me. I'm looking at it right now, and I remember I remember the song. It said All Eyes on Me as I enter the party. Yeah, I've actually I've heard this one before, so it's gonna be interesting to see to hear what this project sounds like. I'll be coming that to you with coming up with that next week. But I've added it to my library, so I don't actually forget. But I will be listening to that next week. But if you guys have heard it already, let me know what you think. Shoot me a message on Twitter is at No Stand Zone at No Stand Pod on Twitter, or Tiae Sound Sound. Yeah, I didn't really hear anything again this week that kind of caught my attention long enough. Yeah, that's it for that for music and all of that this week. Please, if you have any feelings about any of the things I've discussed this week, don't hesitate to reach out to me to let me know what you think. It's gonna be great to hear your thoughts anytime at all. So let's go to my favorite segment, Beyond the Zone. Here we talk about things happening outside of the music, that just general stuff that has to do with culture in Nigeria. So first of all, let's talk about this, the Paralympics. I'm sure, and I would say I'm guilty of this as well. A couple of, we don't, after the main Olympics is done, most people don't watch the Paralympics, and I think it as great as the Olympics is, seeing people put in all the work over the years and then them competing. I think seeing people who have been through some really difficult times and then fighting through all of that to compete and then show themselves to the world, as well as like representing their country, I think that is just a lot of heart. It's a lot of perseverance as well. Like I really honor them, and that's why I think the Paralympics is over as well. And I saw this last week, but somehow missed this. So a Nigerian at the just concluded Paris Paralympic games actually set a world record. Her name is Olúwafẹ́miláyọ̀, right? She broke the world record for powerlifting at the Paralympics, and it was just really beautiful to watch. And I think another thing about what makes this, or what made it even more touching for me, I just had a lot of like goosebumps just watching it, is I'm looking at her, I'm like, things must be so difficult in Nigeria already, but to power through all of that and still be able to set a world record. Like, I mean, and we don't have the best equipment in Nigeria. They don't have like the best like diet routine or like the best trainers compared to, you know, people from other parts of the world. And so just watching her lift this and break the record, I just I something just hit me right deep into my soul. I just want to really appreciate I really appreciate Oluwafemilayo. I celebrate you. I see you as seen. Congratulations to you breaking the world record. Like it's insane, man. Congratulations to her. You guys should go check out the video online. It's really emotional. And then just watching her as well, like and the amount of Nigerians where they were not even plenty, it was just like maybe five Nigerians in one corner with the green, just waving it at her. And I mean, and even the whole arena itself, it wasn't just, you know, it wasn't just her. It was like the whole arena was clapping for her. And all, I mean, you guys should go check out that video, man. She's breaking the world record. Oh, man. Ooh. Oh, I'm watching the video now, man. I mean, I can't play it for you. I'm watching the video now, and she just broke down, literally broke down, after she broke the record, man. Shout out to Oluwafemilayo, Let me just put that video away because I'm beginning to get very emotional just watching it. So what else do I have? Oh my goodness. FOLASHADE Olουwafemiyayo. Olουwafemiyayo. I think that's in my bad. Did I get her name? FOLASHADE Olουwafemiyayo is her name. I needed to get that right. FOLASHADE Olουwafemiyayo. Congratulations on breaking the world record at the Paralympics, the Paris Paralympics, power lifting. You are seen and you are heard. We celebrate you here on the No Stand Zone podcast. Another thing, this one really interesting. This is a really interesting one. And so Ethiopia, September 11th, this past week, marked its new year. You heard me right. Ethiopia celebrated its new year September 11th. This past week, 2024. Now, according to Ethiopia's calendar, which is 7 years behind the Gregorian calendar that we use, right, tells us that Ethiopia is celebrating the start of 2017. So in Ethiopia now, they are in 2017. They're not using the calendar that the rest of us are using. We're in 2024, and it's not like we're in there. They're way back. Every country has got its own culture, and Ethiopia is a really like old country. Like even like I have heard of like historical like books and all of that where Ethiopia is mentioned. Right, Ethiopia is actually mentioned. So this country has been there for a long time. They have their own calendar, and they celebrated New Year. They celebrated their New Year this past week. So happy New Year to folks in Ethiopia. And it's not even like me making fun of them. It's just fascinating. When I saw this, I was shocked. And I think I've heard this before, but because I'm not Ethiopian, so I don't hear it all the time, and then it just kind of skips your mind, right? And so it was just really good to hear. I also heard that Davido actually performed at the New Year ceremony, and I'm looking at some of the videos and the pictures from the night. It was from Addis Ababa, really colorful. Like, it's a thing. You can go do your own, go check it out on the internet and just see how this is. And because the thing is, sometimes we're also caught up in our own culture, our own way of living, a way of life, that we don't know that the world does not revolve around how we live our own lives, right? And the people from other parts of the world have a way of doing their own things, right? The people dress differently in other parts. Things mean different things to people. Like we're talking about Tyla earlier, right? Like I was watching a video earlier today, of like street interviews in Japan, and you will be so surprised that as separate as people are in all parts of the world, there are certain things that are common, like the way we think about each other and the way we see race and all of that. You'll be surprised. People see the same thing. People in other parts of the world, they look at people who look different from them. They kind of shrug. At the same time, there are things that bring us together, like dating. And some of the Gen Zs were asked, "How is dating today?" And they were like, "Trash." If you ask anybody in Nigeria, any part of the world, in America as well, they will tell you the same thing, that dating is a hassle. Like, the best place to go today, if you want to find somebody, most people will tell you like going on dating apps is not the thing at all. It was just really interesting to see that as far apart as people are, there's still like certain things that we all agree on, and there's certain like also makes us really, really different. And you can say, okay, I can understand how people are very what makes us really different, right? So it was just really good to really good to see that today. As always, please, if you have any thoughts as to any topic we discuss here on the pod, please don't hesitate to reach out at all. Once again, by mail, it's nostandpod@gmail.com, or hit me up on Twitter. It's Tiae Sound, Tiae Sound, or No Stand Pod on Twitter. And on YouTube, please subscribe on YouTube. Give us a like as well. And it's the No Stand Zone podcast. And wherever you're listening from, on Spotify, Apple, please leave a rating as well. Please, if you enjoy what we do, I know you guys do, I know you do, so please don't hesitate to leave a rating as well. As always, thank you very much for tuning into the show today. I will be here again next week, every single Monday. Brand new conversations, newest conversation, fresh perspective, not from anybody, not from anywhere. This is this fresh perspective around the happenings in the Nigerian music industry and beyond. Please don't drink and drive, don't text and drive. Until next week, stay blessed.